Pranam, Partho.
Pranam, Kunal.
Partho, we had done a podcast, I think, a while ago, which was on one of the books you were writing at the time called No One Dies.
Yes.
And
Interesting, because that book finally became a chapter in my book on Shiva.
yes,
There's a chapter, No One Dies. So whatever I wanted to write in the book is all there in that one chapter.
yes. But I think, just checking, I've read the book though. In No One Dies, you were trying to prove this in multiple ways beyond spirituality also.
Yes.
That how nobody dies from science perspective as well, biologically. But in the book, it was more on spiritual side that atma is, yeah. So, as we know, I mean, death and taxes are two certain things in the world, in some sense, as they say.
I think in certain countries you can escape taxes. Am I right? Tax havens, they call them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure in a certain consciousness you can escape death too.
Yes. So that's the consciousness we're going to hopefully try and touch upon today.
So in other words, nothing is certain.
Nothing is certain. What I wanted to discuss is in the Hindu tradition, it's a virtual certainty that everyone dies. Not just in Hindu tradition, dies as in the physical form, how we say that, person has come into this body.
Biological death.
Biologically, you'll leave the body at some point. We all do. So one thing I want to understand from you is, how does the process of biological death from a Hindu perspective work? In the sense that, the brain, the body, and the atma that start shifting. How does that process work? The reason for asking is that also it may help someone understand it a little and do it more gracefully versus how sometimes we do in the normal world where everyone starts to grieve when somebody is leaving the body.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional drama around dying.
So
see, Kunal, we have to start with understanding the structure of our being.
yes.
And this needs a bit of self-inquiry, contemplation on one's own being to be able to see the structure. So what most of us are aware of most concretely is the body. And then we have, this is called the gross body, the sthul sharira. And behind, and when I say behind, I don't mean spatially behind, in terms of orders of consciousness. It's behind the gross body, the subtle body, which comprises of the mind, manomaya, the vital pranic, pranamaya. And the pranamaya consists of all the emotions, the emotional movements, pranic movements, and the manomaya, or the mental body, consists of thought, understanding, reasoning, all that, knowledge, remembering, projecting, all that. So you have the mind proper, and then you have the vital mind, which is the the vital emotional mind. And then behind it, again, in order of consciousness, deeper within, one might say, when you go behind the mind and the vital and the physical, in an inner dimension, you have the psychic being, or the Chaitya Purusha, and then the spiritual being. I'm also leaving out a lot of details, like there's the Anandamaya Kosha, there's the Vijnanamaya Kosha, but we are not going into all that now. So what I mean to say is we have a pretty complex
structure.
structure. And unless one has given oneself to that kind of contemplation or meditation, sustained, intense self-inquiry, it's not possible for us to come to know this structure. We can only know what is gross because our senses and mind are only used to gross inputs, the sense mind. And our buddhi processes only that which comes to us through the sense mind. So everything is very gross. But the fact is that most of us are living all the time in our emotions and thoughts, so that's already subtle. But then we don't reflect on this. We're not aware of our minds and emotions most of the time, for most of us. It needs a certain psychological self-study, swadhyay, to discern clearly what is going on in our minds, in the intellectual thinking mind, in the emotional, vital emotional mind, what's going on. So this is the process of self-inquiry, of looking into oneself, not Vedantic atma vichar, but looking into yourself and seeing what is happening, what am I made of, what is happening. Am I right now thinking or feeling? So when you begin to look at these things carefully, you begin to see these things more distinctly. The physical body, the vital being behind it, the mental being behind that, how the mind and the vital work together. Sometimes work together, most of the times they're conflicting. They're pulling in their own directions. So the mind is pulling one way, the vital is pulling another way, and the physical consciousness is pulling it another way. So, and when it comes to the psychic and the spiritual, very few of us become aware of that, because that needs a far deeper and subtler discernment, a far deeper and subtler self-inquiry. To become aware of the psychic being and the spiritual dimension. So without understanding all these things in detail, it's a bit difficult to accept the statement that no one dies. Because when you say no one dies, to most people, it doesn't make sense. Like, what are you saying? People die. People are dying all around us. But what is dying? Who is dying? Have you looked into that? Have you investigated? So, this question cannot be answered unless you've spent many years in contemplating yourself. That forget about who or what is dying, who or what is living, who's having these experiences, who's thinking, what's the relationship between thoughts and the thinker, and what's the relationship between thinker and the awareness. So we have to ask these questions. So what I'm saying, Kunal, is this, that if you understand that you don't die, it's amongst the highest, the deepest realizations you'll have in this lifetime. I mean, think about that. You're living a life with the knowledge that there is no death. You're completely free from the idea of death. Not just the fear of death, the very idea of death. It's a very high attainment. So you can't come to it straight away. You have to do some homework. And the homework starts with this. And right now, who am I? I'm experiencing this life, but when I say I am experiencing this life, what exactly do I mean? Who is experiencing and what is experience? What is the nature of experience? And what is the nature of this world that I'm experiencing, or nature of the self that I'm experiencing? These are questions one has to go into. All these questions. Then one can be free of dares even while living. It is possible.
Sure. And for some of us, some of those people who may not go into this self-inquiry, may not go deeper into understanding this, may still feel they would die one day. What would you, at the very least, suggest to them, to their near dear ones, to think about whenever death approaches them? As an example, I think it was in Gita when Sri Krishna says that, think of me when you're leaving the body and you shall come to me, something of that sort.
Yeah. Sri Krishna says that those who think of me, those who have me in their minds, those who have me in their minds, even in the last moments of life, those who think of me, remember me, they are brought straight to his consciousness. But think about that. How many people can think of the divine in the final moments of one's life? How many people can do that? Because a bit difficult to imagine.
It's hypothetical, yeah. It's abstract, yeah.
You can imagine that you know you're going to die, and all that psychodrama is going on around you, and you just feel it here that you're going to die. And those last few moments of your life, you're clinging desperately to everything that you are attached to, that you have been attached to, everything that you are identified with. How will you think of the divine at that time? You're thinking of those who are going to be left behind, things and people you're going to leave behind. All that becomes very real, and they become acutely real in those last moments of life. Far more real than they are in the normal waking sense. Everything is heightened at that time. And if it's not heightened, maybe if you're dying suddenly or illness, then everything is dulled. So either way, you cannot think of the divine. So to think of the divine in the final moments of your life, you have to be thinking of the divine long before you come to this thing called death.
Yeah. So, not necessarily in a spiritual sense, but in a religious sense, many people, at least, even as idol prayers, and there are lots of religious people in the world, in India also, who may or may not, who may still, due to their bhakti and devotion, take God's name, Sri Krishna's name, or any God's or form's name many times over. But they've not gone into self-inquiry yet. They're just focused on devotion. And if such people are aware of some things that we are discussing, may listen to this in some shape or form, or follow anywhere else where this is mentioned, all they need to think about or practice or imagine after the certain ages, that you have to give up clinging to your near dear ones, to your things. Like last moment, if I'm dying and I'm thinking about my car or my house or my family or something,
Or your unfinished work.
or any work I didn't finish, any presentation I did not give, any
Unfinished business with life and people.
any such things, small things. In grand scheme of things, definitely small things. In the last moments, if I'm thinking of them, surely. But if one were to get to this understanding that giving those up and possibly thinking of the divine, even by effort or by practice or by knowledge.
So that's my question, Kunal.
Yeah.
I mean, can one give up all that in the last few moments of life?
Imagining that, it's certainly hard for a
Because
vital.
you die the way you have lived, no?
You're right. So
Everyone dies the way they have lived.
yeah.
Sorry.
I was just saying, so moral of the story is that you can't live clinging on to things and imagine to die
And
thinking of the
last few
divine.
moments you will do it. It doesn't happen.
It's
And even, I mean, okay, the Gita says that if you take Sri Krishna's name, the Lord's name, just before you die, you are carried into the divine consciousness. But I don't know, I'm sharing with you what I think. There has to be some real connect with the divine.
of course.
The people can probably
Just
take the divine's name out of fear, out of panic.
Yeah.
Like you do in classic cases when you're having a bad experience in a flight, for instance.
Oh God.
And you're praying and you're taking God's name. And
That's not in the right intent, right?
But
that's not with a pure
that's
intent.
Complete panic.
Yeah.
And once you land, you've forgotten all that.
Correct.
So I don't know if the Gita is really saying that just take the Lord's name and Lord.
It's not just a formal name
has to be some
pronunciation.
relationship.
It's not a formal name pronunciation.
So I'm not saying that you must have a fully developed psychic relationship with the divine, but at least some, let's say, working relationship with the divine.
Yeah.
Then it is real when you take the divine's name.
And with true pure intent, pure heart, you take that name with in some sense, purified.
If you have a real relationship, if you've had a real relationship with the divine in the years preceding death,
Yeah.
and then even out of fear, if you take his name, then it's fine, because at least you have a relationship with someone.
Correct.
You have a real relationship over the years with Sri Krishna, and now you're panicking because you don't understand death. So the instinctive reaction is panic. So you're panicking and you're calling out to Sri Krishna because you've had a relationship with him. That's fine. I think that works.
That may work. That should work. Yeah.
I mean, how many people can be in meditation and join with Sri Krishna? Only the yogi. But that's perfectly fine. If you panic and you don't understand death, it's the great unknown, and you call upon the one that you have had a relationship with, the divine that has come to you in whatever form, name, and you call the divine in that form and name, that's fine. That works. But again, it needs some preparation.
Agree. And the best way you put it is you die the way you live.
Yes,
So at the end,
that is for sure.
Yeah.
One dies the way one has lived. I also say that if you truly understand death, then you will live the way you want to die.
Sure. And one more thing. So that's for the person who's dying. Now for the people around, the near dear ones, parents, kids, spouse, any relations, any relatives, they end up grieving right there and then.
Yes.
Before the death, during the death, after the death, in some sense.
Depending on how close the relationship is.
And that, I remember you once mentioned, gets very difficult for the soul to depart in the process. So how should one think about that? Can you elaborate on that?
One shouldn't grieve.
One should not grieve when...
Every enlightened person says that. The mother used to say that. The Buddha said it beautifully, But then we're not going to the Buddhist level.
But what does he say? I'm curious to know. He said...
No one comes, no one goes. So when he was said that, you're leaving the body, what happens to us? I said, I'm not going anywhere. I neither come nor go.
It didn't come.
I am that which is. So if you identify with that which is, then what death are we talking about? But I know several great monks, Vedantic monks, Buddhist monks. The Mother herself has explained this to us, that grieving is like clinging to the subtle being of the person who's leaving the body. And because of the emotional relationship, because of the attachment that this person who's passing has had with those who are grieving, there is still what we say a pranic connection. Sometimes a very strong, stubborn pranic connection. And which means what? Which means your prana is still connected with the prana of the departing person. And now your grieving is actually you're pulling back because you don't want to let go. I've never understood for what purpose, but then you don't want to let go. So you're clinging and pulling back, and this person who's departing is far subtler than you are because of the whole process of dying. And he or she actually cannot go sometimes. Feels very difficult for this person to go. The body is going to be dropped, or the body is dropped. Even this is happening immediately after dying. And the embodied being is dropped, the body is dropped, and the disembodied vital, sometimes even the mind, can feel the tug. And it's very difficult for this being to pass on. And I keep telling everyone who, there are people who, ask me when somebody close is dying, that I always say, understand what is death. Understand no one's dying. And just don't cling on. Now, death, Kunal, the problem is human beings think of death as a calamity. So they've made such a dreadful thing out of death. Well, death is, when you really understand, it's a beautiful thing. It's the
Progression, passing over, whatever.
The enlightened ones celebrate death.
Yeah.
Because you're going back to the source. And there's a whole universe there. But again, you need to be familiar with these ideas. Otherwise, suddenly someone's dying and you're not expected to, become enlightened overnight. And obviously for the person who's dying, you're not expected to, understand death while you're dying. So my advice, Kunal, always is this, that just as you cannot fix a leaking roof when it's raining, you cannot understand death when you're dying. So while you're alive and awake and conscious, understand death. And this is for not just the person who's dying, but those around. See, for us, we are going to die, that's for sure. Everyone we know is also going to die, that's for sure too. It's a question of when.
The biological way.
It's a question of time.
Yeah.
So let everyone's going to die. So why not understand death when you
We
can?
are alive. Yeah. So coming back to the grieving.
Yes.
The family is grieving. So the suggestion would be for nobody
to
to grieve.
grieve.
Not to grieve for how long?
To let go, never to grieve. Why would you grieve?
Ideally never, but if you still feel
There's
like...
I don't think there can be any grieving.
So how long does the pranic connection stay, you think, that way?
I don't know, and I'm sure there'll be many variables. Our dharma, Sanatan Dharma, gives a definite period. That's when they do all those rituals, post-death
The 14th,
rituals.
the 13th, 14th day.
13 days.
Fourth day.
And then it goes on.
Okay.
But what really lingers on after dying is the disembodied vital.
Correct. And for anybody to try and let it pass through gracefully, avoid grieving in the immediate period for sure.
Immediate period. Once the soul, the psychic being, if it's awakened enough, or has returned to its source, or once the atma has merged with the Paramatma, then I don't think it matters whether you grieve or not. But grieving is in any case, I consider it selfish and meaningless. One never grieves for the other. One only grieves for what one is losing.
You're right.
For the other, it's always like, no, you've gone on the next stage of your eternal journey.
Sure.
But for that, one has to have lived deeply enough to be able to know that.
Yes. And I hope if you get a chance and inspiration, maybe you can still write that book.
I was wanting to write it.
Yeah.
Why did that book condense itself into a chapter?
Sure.
No.
But maybe adding a few other things around the book, and maybe a short book or a short text could help others, as you said, learn about death while they're alive. And maybe...
So what came to my mind repeatedly while I was trying to write this book was that you don't try to understand death, you try to understand the self.
Okay. Understood.
Once you even begin to understand the self, I'm not even saying realize the self, you begin to understand the self, you realize with complete clarity that there is no thing as death. That's what I mean when I say no one dies. There is no such thing as death. But you have to understand the nature of the self for that.
I agree. Sure.
Without that, no matter how much you read, it's not going to happen because we don't live that way. If you live like a sannyasi, like a yogi, who's a sannyasi? Who's a yogi? One who has no inner engagement, one who's not attached, unattached.
No desires, no engagement.
No possessions.
Yeah.
I mean, desires may come and go.
Yeah.
But no identifications, no possessions, no running after things. One who's supremely poised in his or her own deepest consciousness. One who has found his or her deepest consciousness.
Yeah.
For such a one, death doesn't exist. I mean, every day you're living in a consciousness that cannot die.
Sure.
So long before physical death happens, you've already gone way beyond dying, way beyond death.
Sure.
And the more conscious you become of the mechanism of dying, the whole biological process of dying, the scientific process. You become conscious of all that, and then you can choose when and how to die.
Sure.
When and where and how to die. All this can be done. You can
Sure.
choose.
Sure. No, I think I agree that, I mean, understanding oneself is takes away anything to do with the death, and it eventually as you said, no one dies, but also I was
Gita, you mentioned the Gita, where Sri Krishna is saying that
no one dies.
So Sri Krishna begins the jnana of the what we call the Upadesha of the Gita, the Gita Upadesha. The Gita is an Upadesh, Gita Upadesh.
Yeah.
Gita Upadesh. How does one explain Gita Upadesh? Upadesh is teaching.
Instruction,
Kind of deep inner counseling.
Correct.
Not just advice, but Upadesh is teaching. A lesson.
Yeah.
Put all that together, you have Upadesh. The Upadesh of the Gita begins with Sri Krishna telling Arjuna that you don't die, no one dies.
Yeah.
You
Atma
neither
amar hai.
kill nor you get killed.
Yeah.
Why? And this is Sri Krishna's Mahavakya to Arjuna, that you are the Atma.
Yes.
Know yourself as the Atma, which is neither born nor does it die. It's the unborn, undying,
Correct.
indestructible.
Correct.
And around that, the whole of the Gita revolves.
I agree.
Atma Gyan. Because finally the Gita is about Atma Gyan.
Yeah. So
And Atma Gyan leading to Paramatma Gyan.
So when I was asking about death, clearly knowledge of the self, as you said, I mean, no one dies. Then I was also thinking for the others grieving, but again, if you go by this self knowledge, then there are no others. It's all one anyway.
That, of
in
course,
some
is
sense.
a very deep level.
Very,
Yes. But even without going there, if people begin to understand
yeah.
self and life and death, then at least one doesn't have to go through this very undignified way of treating dying. This melodrama that people create around death, it's undignified.
Sure.
It's primitive, and one has to outgrow that. Death is a thing to be regarded as with deep and silent dignity and sacredness, the sanctity of death. That is lost because of our grieving, because of all this melodrama. The sanctity of death is lost. Death has a beauty and a sanctity. This is the inner being is dissolving into the infinite beyond, and the psychic is passing back to its source and will be reborn, as Sri Krishna again says so beautifully. That which dies will be reborn, and that which is born will die. It's a cycle. That which is born will die, that which dies will be reborn. Accept that as truth. And if you can't accept that as truth, if you say that, no, you die and you die, it's all over, in any case, why you grieve then? If everyone's going to die and everything's over, then why grieve? And if you are born and you have to die, and you die, you have to be reborn, then why grieve? So either case, why grieve? Sri Krishna says it so beautifully, the wise do not grieve.
Sure. So you're right. I mean, read the Gita, come to the self, realize the self, do other things, and how you live is how you're gonna die. So
And if you want, next time we can, if you feel it's useful, then we can go into the other aspects of death, the biological. There's a quantum physics aspect of death. There's
Yes.
a biological aspect.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a spiritual.
we covered this once, I think. I think we covered this once at a high
did
level. We did. I recall. Yeah. So, Partho, last rapid fire question. So, if you have to die the next moment, anything you would cling on to? Anything?
No. Sometime back, I always tell myself that I'm not going to die without the full realization of the self. That holds. I still hold it in my mind and heart that I will not give up this body without complete realization of the self. And that's my only condition. Once the complete realization of the self is there, then it really doesn't matter. But I don't want to come back to fill the gaps. I want it all done. And as I said, you have stepped into the sea. Now you got to keep going till you immerse into the sea. And that is more a question of time. It's not if it will happen. It will happen. When it will happen. It takes time. It takes time to be free of time.
Sure.
So it takes some time to be free of time. And once you're free of time, once you're free of kala, and once you're free of birth and death, so the cycle of birth and death, once you know that you are the eternal Atma, then it's the Atma that moves. If the Atma moves from here to there, from this room to that room, you go there. And the mother said this again so beautifully. She said, what's there in dying? Death is like
Bad habit.
going from, she said death is a bad habit.
Yeah.
But she also said this very beautiful thing, that death is like going from one room to another.
Yeah.
So when the Atma moves from here to there, the Atma moves. There's no you, there's no I. It's all this whole being and becoming is Atma. And to know that is perhaps the only knowledge worth having.
Sure.
And Kunal, if this knowledge has touched your inner buddhi, and if it has set you on fire within yourself, then you tell me, what will you cling to? And forget about when you're going to die. Right now, what will you cling? What's worth clinging to? Once this knowledge has touched you, once you know that this knowledge exists, once you know that this is what we are all about, this supreme Atma Gyan is possible, that you can be that, do you seriously think you'll cling on to anything at all? Here, now. And then when you're going to die, the answer, you have to answer the question here and now. The one thing that you will hold on to is the Atma itself. And then finally you realize that you don't need to hold on to the Atma. You are the Atma. Tat Tvamasi. You are the Atma. And the day you realize that, you're liberated, you're free. Then whether the body dies, whether the body lives for 300 years, it's again the will and the movement of the Atma.
Beautiful, Partho. I think that concludes the chat. But great conversation, Partho. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.